If you look at our average settlement value, average verdict, that type of thing, we do a good job for the clients that we take in and represent, and that's because we handle the cases from the outset in just a different way than a lot of law firms do.
You've been through enough. This is Now What? Your guide to recovering after life blindsides you. I'm Jordan Travis, a personal injury attorney here in Colorado. And together we'll cut through the confusion, expose the insurance games, and let you get the clarity you deserve.
This will be the episode 1 of the Now What podcast. I have Susan Travis here with us in our little studio today to talk about the origin and how everything came to be at Travis Legal Offices and how she started and then got me involved in the law as well, and how everything has evolved since then.
I'm Susan Stevens Travis, and I am Jordan's mother. We work together along with my husband and Jordan's wife, Mackenzie, and Jack Mao, our paralegal. We're a small firm, but we have purposely stayed as a small firm on purpose. When we originally started the practice, Todd and myself, we wanted a small practice where people felt comfortable calling us on our cell phones over the weekends, in the evenings, whenever they needed us. We were there, and we have just kept that up through the years and purposely have not grown. We've kept small. We want to be small but yet be able to meet people's needs.
For today's episode, I figured what we would do is kind of talk about the before, why you got into the law, why Dad got into the law, and then how that sparked everything going forward and what's changed over the years.
So I actually am from Iowa, and I met Todd, and he had decided to go to law school. I was working as a paralegal for several law firms downtown. Todd and I, while he was in law school, started a company to do contract paralegal services, which we did for about 45 different law firms around the Denver area while he was in law school. But when we went out on our own, and it was just Todd and myself for a very long time, 20 plus years, we could see things. There were a lot of big firms that were emerging in the Denver market that were more into volume for the number of clients that they handled. And we wanted to have something that didn't go to that MO, that wasn't that MO. We didn't care so much about the volume. We wanted to be able to help people. That was the whole basis for it, is we wanted to be able to help people, have them be able to reach us, and develop a very close relationship with our clients. And that's what we've continued to do all through the years.
Perfect. And from my perspective, I grew up around it. You and Dad, Todd Travis, who's the other attorney here, you guys always worked from home growing up. And so, at dinner tables or whatever it was easy for me to pick up on that. And, I carried that all the way through high school and college and law school. I went to undergraduate school at the University of Colorado Boulder, and I also went to law school there, graduated in 2020 with my JD, and then I've been practicing with you both ever since. And one of the main reasons too that, I didn't originally see myself as joining your guys' law firm. I thought I would, go out and do my own thing and that type of thing. But it was important when I was going through law school to see all these other students kind of struggling when they got out of law school, basically, or even throughout law school doing internships, getting advice that wasn't in their best interest. It was a super competitive environment, even inside of firms, people competing with one another, giving them purposeful wrong advice, that type of thing to try to get an edge. And I think one of the things that coming out of law school is I knew I needed a place that I could trust that the advice I was getting was good. It came from from experts in the field that actually had the best intentions in mind and cared about what we were doing, what I was going to end up doing, and what the clients do as well. And so, a lot of those firms don't necessarily have any of those goals in mind. So that's why I ended up joining the firm, and we've been practicing together, at least on the law side of things, since I've been an attorney for 6 years now, or close to 6 years. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is a little bit about how the firm itself started, how you and Dad, what caused you to go out on your own more than...
We started a company to do contract paralegal work for quite a few attorneys around the Denver area. And we would do a lot of the same work that we still do now, but we had a handle in it, but we didn't guide the cases. A lot of the responsibility for how the cases were managed were not up to us. We were just like a cog in the machine, right? Some of these bigger firms, there's a lot more people. People have a lot more delegated responsibilities instead of the way we do it. We're all hands-on with the cases. We get to know the cases intimately because we are a small firm. And so all of us, right now, we're a firm of 5 people, 2 attorneys and 3 support staff, and we all know the cases. We wanted to be, I don't know how to use the term, I don't know what term to use, other than to say we wanted an intimate relationship with our clients. We wanted them to almost feel like family, like we were handling it, like we would handle the case if we were representing you, as our son or somebody else or family friend. We wanted to have that close-knit relationship with people so they were comfortable talking to us and letting us know what they liked, what they didn't like, and we could manage the case almost as a team after discussing it with them, how we should proceed to best handle things for them.
And even going along with that, I mean, since I've been an attorney here, we have represented family members, and those cases are handled the exact same way that other cases in the office are handled.
That's right. That's right.
The family members have our cell phone just like the clients do. Attorneys are involved in the process throughout. The whole firm is involved in the process throughout. So it's not just early on in a case, a paralegal following a checklist of what to do in case. Each case is individually personalized, reviewed by the entire staff for best strategies going forward. So that way, each case, it's not just following a script or, for lack of a better term, an outline or a checklist of how to handle a case. Each case is obviously different. How the collision occurred, how the client's doing, who's it's impacting in their lives or their family's life. Like some of our clients have kids or family members that they're taking care of and that type of thing. And understanding all of that early on in the case helps us make sure that we build up the case, again, from a more of a family and close relationship with the client.
People that know me know I'm very forthright with things I have to say. So the one case that I would say that comes to mind about the difference on how we handle cases versus the other firms that almost pigeonhole the cases right at the beginning, like you were saying, where they put them in certain categories and they know the ones that they're going to be willing to go to trial on versus the ones that they're going to settle, that type of thing. Anyway, when you were in law school, and I don't even know if you remember this, but your 3rd year of law school, we had a case up in Boulder District Court, and the insurance company, it was a small case, but it was big to the client. And so therefore it was big to us because it was life altering for our client. And even small cases are life altering. And that's what I think a lot of attorneys lose, the fact of, dollar wise, maybe it's not, a huge amount of money, but for the client, it means a lot to them. And they want to know that somebody has their back and is out there fighting for them. So on that particular case, we were negotiating with the insurance company, and the insurance company offered us $10,000. We wanted $15,000 to settle the case, and they would not come up that additional $5,000. And 15 was our bottom line. We set that as our bottom line, and that was our bottom line. And so we took the case to trial, and you sat in on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember. You sat in on it. Ultimately, the insurance company ended up paying, I would say, somewhere between $45,000 and $50,000 by the time they got done paying the judgment, the interest involved, the cost, all that type of thing. And that was life altering for our client. And I think, and you know this, just to throw that out there too, our business is a referral business. We get our clients from referrals. We're not big marketers. We do very, very little in the way of marketing. We didn't even have a website until Jordan got out of law school. and that's because, it's not like we weren't tech capable. We just chose to be a word of mouth law firm. And so people would come to us, and we've kind of kept that up to this day. We still don't spend the kind of big bucks that you'll see a lot of big firms spend on advertising. We're just not that.
It's not a volume business for us. Like a lot of those firms, like we said, there's tracks of cases, and if it's less than 100,000, not only will they try to only handle it with a paralegal, they'll try to get it done really quickly.
Yeah.
And that's in part, to cover marketing budgets and that type of thing. And, sometimes, if they're playing a numbers game, they do get bigger cases, and those go to attorneys, and, they handle them way differently. But it seems wrong to handle a case differently based upon the value when that doesn't matter to the client. Like you said, each case matters in its own way to the client individually.
Yeah.
And
it's life altering to them.
Yeah.
Right. No matter what the value is, it's life changing. And I think that gets lost in the shuffle sometimes with the bigger cases. Mm-hmm. And that's why we purposely have stayed small, so that we feel like we're doing a good job for our clients.
Yeah, well, and I think we do, frankly. Yeah. I mean, if you look at our, neither here nor there, but like average settlement value, average verdict, that type of thing, we do a good job for the clients that we take in and represent, and that's because we know them. We handle the cases from the outset in just a different way than a lot of law firms do.
Yeah.
I can talk about a couple of cases that, since we've been here, that we've been able to handle. And there's a case that comes to my mind as well about how our law firm handles just cases a little bit differently and how it impacts clients' lives. So one of them fairly recently that we got done finally it did take a while, but it was because it was so impactful for our client's life. He was a worker. He was a construction worker who did roofing, and he was T-boned by actually two cars that ran a red light, and they were both going pretty fast, but it ended up basically his spine was never the same. He had disc herniations and a whole host of injuries. He couldn't go back to construction or any sort of manual labor. He has a hard time even walking around today, but he didn't know. He's never been in a lawsuit before, never in an accident, never dealt with any of this before. So he took a while to get treatment, even hire an attorney. It was about a year after the collision that he decided to hire an attorney involved in it and everything. And I think when we're talking about how our firm handles things, I think a lot of firms would have either declined his case or tried to settle it right away. Because at that time when he came to us, he had very minimal treatment. He had gaps in treatment. He had only been to a chiropractor, but he was going through all this pain.
Yeah, I think he had one MD maybe, but I think there'd been not a whole lot of treatment.
Yeah, he reviewed it or something, but they didn't understand the severity of it.
Right.
And as soon as we started talking to him more about how bad, because he was talking to the doctors, but he wasn't really communicating in the way that they understood. We just talked to him and said, well, have you brought all this up with your doctors, basically? Not trying to direct treatment or tell him what to do, but it was just, he's talking to us about how it's impacted his life. And that's our goal, is to know that. And the doctors clearly just didn't understand all that. So he went back in, he talked to the doctors more in depth about what he was telling us, the same thing. And in the end, they ended up doing MRIs and treatment, and he ended up needing several surgeries on his back. And, it just, this whole treatment, his whole life was changed from this. He didn't work. Yeah. Everything would have been missed.
And I honestly think it was just that it was a whole new arena for him. I mean, he'd never even thought about hiring an attorney. And in that regard, there's a lot of people that are reluctant to hire attorneys at the beginning because, a lot of people, if they want to put a stigma on it or whatever, like, you hear the term ambulance chaser and all that type of thing. But I think what people don't realize is what they're up against is these insurance companies, which are multi-billion-dollar corporations, and they do know how to handle it to minimize their exposure and devalue the cases. And I think, for people that aren't experienced in the area of personal injury, they don't realize they need an attorney. And they really do, because the insurance companies are going to put all their resources against them right from the get-go.
And his case is a perfect example of that because their original offer in his case was zero. They didn't offer him anything, even when we got involved, because they had set it up for a $0 claim and basically were ready to fight him personally and solely on it. They didn't have it set up the proper way. They basically took a hardball stance on it. And in the end, that came back to bite them once we got involved. You know, all of their different tactics they were trying to use against him, we were familiar with them and knew how to address them. And in the end, a $0 offer in that case, the client got $1.4 million settlement out of it. Plus, and the insurance. Plus.
But this gentleman, if he didn't know it and if he hadn't hired counsel, he would have no way of knowing.
He wouldn't have gotten anything on his case.
No.
I mean, he was prepared before he called us to not get anything, and he just wanted a consult.
Yeah.
So that's the whole perspective is you don't know until you talk to someone who deals with this if you are being taken advantage of.
Right. We can't make somebody get better, right? We're not medical providers. We can't magically cure their medical problems, but we can help to make sure that they're articulating their problems to their medical providers so the medical providers understand what's going on. And I guess encourage or entice them to talk to their doctors and tell them what's going on and make sure the client gets to the right places to get the right treatment that they need for their diagnoses. You know?
It's just making sure everyone's on the same page, kind of coordinating more than anything with what's going on in the client's lives and how it's impacting them.
And I know one of the first things when I started doing this, we were talking about the fact that as the attorneys, we're one of the few entities on people's cases that usually get all the records, right? So if you've got a neurologist involved, the neurologist has their records, and you've got an orthopedic, they've got their records, but we're like the people that have like all the records because we have to get all of them. And I think sometimes because of that, we see a bigger picture. And we can talk to the client and say, hey, you know, you may want to talk to your doctor because you're telling us, you know, we ask them to communicate to us and let us know what their symptoms are. You're telling us you're having headaches, for instance. Right. And maybe you should talk to your doctor about that because they may think there's something to do.
Or you're telling the wrong doctor which one.
Right.
You tell a chiropractor you're having headaches, but it's not noted in a neurologist note or something along those lines.
Right.
Whatever it is, but making sure the right doctors have the right information is critical.
And I think that to me is another important reason to have an attorney, because I think the attorney gets the big picture and sees what's going on, you know, and
if the attorney's involved early and watching the case closely.
So your wife has a master's degree in psychology. And when she came to work for us, one of the things that she always wanted to do was to help people. That's what she wanted to do. And I told her, I said, that's what we do. We help people. We really do. At the end of the day, I know we are making a difference in people's lives, and that makes me feel better. It gives all of us that warm, fuzzy feeling, right?
Right.
That you want to know that you've done what you can to make somebody's life better. And I really, completely and utterly in my soul, I actually believe that's what we do. And I think there are a lot of firms out there that aren't like us, that actually take it to heart, take what we do for the clients to heart. Seriously, I've been doing this since the mid-'80s, but I can think of, I mean, a lot of them are still in my head, the clients and the circumstances and the recoveries.
I could probably name every single client currently in the office, and most of them since I've been an attorney as well for the last 6 years. For the most part, it's right there. And especially if I saw the name, for sure, I'd be able to remember all the details of the case, how it impacted their lives, all that type of thing, because we know the people.
Well, and I think that's different too. And just summarizing, yes, we're aware we're a small firm, but I feel like you get more hands-on, close, you know, a team fighting for you, right? But like our average number of cases that we're handling is somewhere around 50 plus, 50 to 70, I would say. And, you know, some of these bigger firms, they have 300-400 cases, some maybe even more than that. I don't know.
Right.
I've never worked in a large firm enough to
know
that.
Taken depositions of the adjusters and stuff who are handling these cases. Insurance companies given each insurance company is a little bit different, but sometimes assigns between 200 and 300 per adjuster. So they don't know the cases either.
Yeah.
By having it, we basically average about 10 cases per person in our office.
Yeah.
And they're averaging 200 or 300 per person at an insurance company. It's a different way of even thinking about the case from the outset. If we only have, everyone handles every case, but on average, we only have divided out one case or 10 cases per one person. And it's so much easier to keep track. And when I'm arguing with an adjuster or negotiating or filing motions or in front of the judge, whatever it is, being able to know the clients that well and articulate it in a way that the opposing counsel can't do, the adjuster can't do. I mean, frankly, the only one who would know the case better is probably the client themselves. And even then, sometimes they don't know the legal side or whatever. So
I think maybe just the fact that it's not all profit driven. I mean, that's not our motivating factor, right? It's not all about the money for us, it's the money for the client. We want to do well for the client, but we're not looking like that case, that I talked about a long time ago about the difference between the 10 and the 15,000. And the insurance company thought, there's no way we're going to try that case, for a $5,000 difference. And we did, and it made a big difference to our client. But, we weren't looking, from our perspective, from the trial prep and going to trial and the costs for the experts and all of this, depositions, all that, maybe we would have been better off as a firm taking the 15, but it wasn't the right thing for the client. Right. And I think that's what made the difference. Taking the 10. Right. Because they never offered 15, but taking the 10. But no, you have to do the right thing. You have to be able to live with yourself at the end of the day, I think, and make the right decision.
Right. And that's, again, the way every case is handled is just a lot. It's not about the end result. It's more about actually the process of getting there. Right. That matters for the client too, to remember, trying to make this a smooth process in terms of, if you want to get a hold of us, usually we try to make it as easy as possible. You don't have to set up an appointment 2 weeks from now to get a call back from an attorney or talk to someone in the office or, wait a month to hear anything on your case and stuff. It's just, there's a lot of different things that we try to do to just change how the legal profession, at least on our small, be as it may.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we can only do what we can do. Right.
And for the clients that we represent, but it's just a different way of handling it than.
And I think it's something to be said that, we started the practice in January of 1998. I'd been involved in the legal field for 10 years before. Todd had been involved in it for about the same amount before, in different capacities. But, when we started our firm, we had 5 cases, and we purposely decided we don't want to go out and market. We want to make it referrals. And we are still going strong almost 30 years later, right? Just from referrals, just from people coming back. Unfortunately, there are repeat clients. There are people who refer family members and friends and coworkers, and
We've had a variety of referrals. I mean, we've had defense counsel refer some of their friends to us. We've had adjusters call us and refer. I mean, some of the times the unlikeliest places and stuff, but that's why we try to do a good job on every case. We don't know where our next case is coming from. All we have is our work product to show that for us and keep our name out there. So, but it builds along with it too. Insurance companies do keep track of law firms based upon their tax ID numbers. So they will, based upon each law firm has their own, obviously, individual tax ID number, that will, in the internal systems for each insurance company, spit out a likelihood of settlement. How risky is trial against this attorney? Are they good? Are they bad? How many cases do they handle? Do they have enough time? All sorts of statistics that build into how the insurance company itself also litigates and frankly negotiates on the claim. If they know you're a firm
that settles a case,
they will not offer you the same amount as if they're actually fearful of going to trial against you. So part of those things too, going to trial over $5,000 or going to trial. We've had other trials. I mean, we had one a couple of years ago that was over $563,000 verdict.
Right.
And, so over $500,000 in that case. And again, it doesn't matter the size or the scale. We have to show that we're
matters to the clients, but we have to show the insurance company we're willing to fight for every dollar.
Right. Because they'll keep track of that. If we don't fight over that $5,000, the next time they're not even going to offer, the difference isn't going to be $5,000 next time. It's going to be $8,000 or $10,000, or they're going to start chipping away at what even their offers are if they're not working towards that.
And because I've been around for so long, the way that insurance companies handling the claims has changed so much since the 90s. Basically, they evaluate cases now based on information they put in their computers and based on the data they have collected. It spits out a number for the adjuster. It's not based on that adjuster's particular experience or knowledge. Basically, the adjusters are locked in to a certain amount that they can offer, in a lot of cases. And one of the keys that I think that we do differently is we identify what those keys are that the insurance companies evaluate the case based on, and we try to negotiate on those. We try to include those in our documentation when we're trying to settle a case or if we're going to trial, right?
Right. I mean, we do have experience with each insurance company. We've seen a lot of their own internal training manuals and that type of thing, and we gear our practice in a certain way to make sure that whatever we need to do to maximize our client's settlement, whether it's talking to the adjuster or going and ignoring them and dealing with it our own way, whatever makes sense on each case, we know how to deal with those when it comes to car accident cases and insurance bad faith. That's what we do. And
we're fighting smart, right? Yeah. We're fighting against them smart.
Right.
We're using our knowledge and expertise and past experience and technology. We're not afraid to spend the money to get the things we need in order to work a case up properly for trial.
Right.
I mean, there's so many different elements to put into it, but I think ultimately it comes down to the fact that we're trying to do the right thing for our clients.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. So that's a little bit about Travis Legal Offices, how the firm started, about us and everything. Stick around in next episode. We'll talk about the biggest myth that people believe in after an accident, like, the biggest myth about attorneys, cases, defense counsel, insurance companies, all of those type of things. That's what we're going to touch on next. But that'll wrap it up for episode 1.
Whether you've been in an accident or you know somebody, we're going to be giving helpful hints and information that will be helpful should you ever need somebody, a personal injury attorney in the future.
Right. And we're always happy to talk to anyone too.
Always. Yeah. Reach out to us if you just have a question and you want to know something. Give us a call. We're here.
Thank you.
If you're in Colorado and dealing with an accident or injury, reach out to us at Travis Legal Offices for your free consultation. You don't have to face this alone. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and remember, when life hits hard, you hit back.